Man shouldn't be able to see his own face. There is nothing more sinister. Nature gave him the gift of not being able to see it, and of not being able to stare into his own eyes. Only in the water of rivers and ponds could he look at his face, and the very posture he had to assume was symbolic. He had to bend over and stoop down to commit the blasphemy of beholding himself. The inventor of the mirror poisoned the human heart. Let's travel back in time, back to when the world was a simpler place. Imagine a time when the only way to catch a glimpse of yourself was through nature's looking glass, a still pond, or a quiet river. It's a serene image, isn't it? You, nature, and a fleeting reflection. In those moments, seeing one's reflection was a rare and profound experience. To see yourself, you had to crouch down, bending your body, humbling yourself before the elements. This act wasn't just a physical one, it was deeply symbolic. It spoke of a time when humans lived in harmony with nature, acknowledging their connection to the earth with every bowed head. But there's more to this picture. This humble posture, this bending down to the level of the earth, carried with it an air of vulnerability. It was almost as if seeing one's own face was a privilege that came with a price, the price of humility, of lowering oneself to the ground. It was nature's subtle reminder of our origins and our place in the grand scheme of things. This act of stooping down, of bringing oneself to the level of the dirt, had its own dignity. Yes, there was a certain ignominy, a hint of shame in lowering oneself. But it was also a gesture of respect, a recognition of one's smallness in the vastness of the world. It was nature's way of keeping human ego in check, a reminder that we are but a small part of a much larger world. Enter the mirror, one of mankind's most intriguing inventions. This seemingly simple object brought about a seismic shift in human behavior and self-perception. For the first time, humans could see themselves without the mediation of nature, without bending down, without the humility that came with it. The mirror changed everything. It presented a new way of seeing oneself, upright, direct, unflinching. It was a declaration of independence from nature, a bold step into a new era of self-awareness and inevitably self-obsession. As mirrors became more common, their impact deepened. They began to shape not just how we saw ourselves, but how we thought about ourselves. In the mirror, we saw not just our physical form, but our aspirations, our insecurities, our vanity. The mirror became a tool for self-scrutiny, a constant invitation to evaluate, to admire, or to critique. Throughout history, the mirror has been both a symbol and a catalyst for this growing self-awareness. In the art and literature of the Renaissance, for instance, the human form took center stage. The mirror was a metaphor for introspection, for the exploration of the self. This era saw a dramatic increase in portraits, in artworks that celebrated and scrutinized the individual. But with this increased self-focus came consequences. Psychologists suggest that the proliferation of mirrors may have played a role in the rise of narcissistic behaviors, in the growing importance placed on appearance and external validation. The mirror, once a novel invention, became a fixture in every home, reflecting back not just our images, but our evolving sense of self. Then came the camera, a mirror that not only reflected, but captured and preserved. With the advent of photography, the mirror's influence expanded exponentially. We were no longer just viewers of our own image. We became its creators, curators, and critics. The camera allowed us to control how we appeared to the world. It gave us the power to freeze moments, to select and present our best selves. But with this power came a new layer of complexity in our relationship with our own image. The camera introduced a performative element to self-reflection, transforming it into a public spectacle. And then, the digital revolution. In the age of social media, mirrors and cameras converge to create a new reality, a world where our images are constantly captured, shared, and evaluated. Platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok have become the modern mirrors, reflecting not just our faces, but our lives, our successes, our failures. This digital mirror has far-reaching effects. Studies from institutions like the American Psychological Association show a correlation between heavy social media use and increased rates of mental health issues, particularly among young people. It's as if the mirror has evolved, becoming not just a tool for self-reflection, but a source of constant social comparison and validation seeking. The selfie culture exemplifies this new reality. It's not just about capturing a moment, it's about crafting an image, a persona. Research in journals like the International Journal of Mental Health and Addiction highlights the impact of this trend, linking excessive selfie taking to concerns about body image and self-esteem. We're no longer just looking at ourselves, we're constantly positioning ourselves for an unseen audience, seeking approval, validation, and sometimes, unwittingly, setting ourselves up for disappointment. In this digital age, the act of looking into a mirror or a camera has become fraught with psychological implications. It's no longer just about how we see ourselves. It's about how we want to be seen, how we believe we should be seen. Our reflections have become entangled with issues of identity, self-worth, and the relentless pursuit of an often unattainable ideal. As we navigate this complex landscape, it's worth pausing to reflect on the journey from those ancient waters to our modern screens. The humble act of bending down to a pond, of seeing oneself in the context of the natural world, has been replaced by a more assertive, often aggressive stance before our mirrors and screens. We've lost something in this transition, a sense of simplicity, of being part of something larger than ourselves, of seeing our reflection as just one small part of a vast and beautiful world. This brings us to a crucial question. In a world saturated with reflections, how do we find our true selves? How do we navigate this maze of mirrors without losing sight of who we really are? How do we balance the desire for self-expression with the need for self-acceptance? Perhaps the answer lies in reclaiming some of that ancient wisdom, in finding moments to disconnect from our digital reflections and reconnect with the world around us. Maybe it's about learning to look at ourselves with a bit more kindness, a bit more compassion, a bit less judgment. As we ponder the legacy of the mirror and its impact on our hearts and minds, let's remember that our reflections, whether in water, glass, or pixels, are just one part of our story. They are not the whole picture. They are snapshots, moments in time, not the sum total of who we are. In the end, the mirror, in all its forms, is just a tool. It's how we use it, how we let it shape our perceptions and actions, that truly matters. As we move forward in this mirrored world, let's strive to use these reflections not to judge or diminish ourselves, but to understand, to grow, and to see not just our faces, but our hearts and minds with clarity and insight. The inventor of the mirror may not have foreseen how deeply their creation would affect the human psyche, but their legacy is a reminder of the power of innovation, of the unintended consequences that can flow from even the simplest of inventions. As we stand before our mirrors, let's take a moment to look beyond our reflections, to see the deeper truths that lie within and around us, and to embrace a more holistic, compassionate view of ourselves and our place in the world.